The mic was muted. Okay, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. My name is Abdul Malik, and you, my friend, I can't talk. You, my friend, you watch Abdul Malik Reacts. Okay, I'm gonna keep this intro quick because this is not an sheet. Okay, this is a documentary. Shocking, right? I'm posting a documentary video on this channel. This is supposed to be just nasheeds. What happened, Abdul Malik? Okay, let me tell you, okay? Recently, I've been checking out a lot of nasheeds, okay? A lot of Shia nasheeds, okay, on this channel. And one of you guys requested that I do check out this documentary about Hussein, okay? Radiallahu anhu, okay? So, yes, so today I am checking that one out. Give me 1 second. So, yes. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. So yeah, this one is a documentary. So yeah, we're not going to waste too much time. So yeah, since I was reacting a lot of nasheeds about Hussein radiallahu anhu, I was like, okay, I'll check it out and I'll post it on this channel. Normally I would be putting it in my other channel, but since, yeah, you get the point. Okay, anyways, let's get into it, okay? I hope you learn a thing or two about Hussein radiallahu anhu that you might have not known about him. Okay, so yeah, let's get it. Let's educate ourselves more. Okay, let's go.
And
Bismillah.
borders for Hussein.
It is in English, so hopefully you wait. I think they will have
Hussein
on-screen subtitles.
is a man whose story has
They don't.
transcended
It's okay.
generations and borders for
Let's
over
go.
1300 years. Hussein's selfless pursuit for moral justice.
His story, I learned. I'm already having goosebumps because it's incredible story, and I am glad that we get to check it out together. Okay, I'll try to comment less so that way I don't make the video way too long.
Justice in the face of brutal oppression has inspired hope for millions. The Battle of Karbala, where Hussein and his 72 loyal companions bravely stood against an army of thousands, forever changed the course of history.
Incredible intro.
Hussein was born in 626 AD in the city of Medina to the noble family of the Prophet Muhammad.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
He was raised by a family renowned for their honesty, compassion, and justice.
He was revered and celebrated by people from different walks of life. Every lover of truth and every lover of justice loved Hussein alayhi salam. And this, no doubt, began way back while they were in the holy city of Medina.
The values that he adopted as a child were the values that
I
he
love
learned
this
as he
documentary
grew up.
already.
And he grew up in the holiest of houses. He grew up with his grandfather, the Prophet.
As a young
Sallallahu Alaihi
child,
Wasallam.
Hussein witnessed his grandfather's struggle to establish a morally just and compassionate society.
They embraced a very sincere life, a very humble life. They prioritized charity, giving, and working to improve the societies they were in.
Arabian society was plagued by violence and corruption. Muhammad's rise and the advent of Islam eradicated much of this injustice, and the people had widely adopted a moral way of living. In 632 AD, the Prophet Muhammad passed
Sallallahu
away,
Alaihi Wasallam.
devastating a young Hussein. What followed after would impact Hussein in
this is
ways
giving me
he could not yet
goosebumps.
comprehend. What followed after would impact Hussein in ways he could not yet comprehend. Shortly after the Prophet's death, the leadership of the newly formed nation fell into dispute. Divisions amongst the people emerged, and a violent power struggle fractured the nation for over 30 years, which led to a lengthy civil war between Hussein's father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Muawiyah.
Muawiyah, who was originally from a tribe or clan which had in the early years opposed the Prophet's message and Islam, took power. Started off in his power base in Syria, in Damascus.
Ali ibn Abi Talib was assassinated, and Muawiyah assumed full control. Choosing to avoid further conflict, Hussein's elder brother, Hussain, made a treaty with Muawiyah, which would prevent Muawiyah from passing on rule to his son, amongst other things.
These clauses of the truce were basically violated, and the ultimate expression of that violation was the actual assassination of Hassan himself around 10 years after that.
Having violated the treaty, Muawiyah allowed his son Yazid to take over the power. Yazid was widely regarded as a tyrannical and cruel narcissist who wanted to rule with an iron fist. Yazid sought the allegiance of Hussein to cement his claim to power and gain credibility.
One of the needs, one can say, of an oppressive regime is the need for legitimacy. And the important sources of that legitimacy has to come from prominent members of the society who are respected for their high morals to support them.
Having witnessed years of injustice and the steady moral decay of his society, Hussein knew he had to draw a line with Yazid to prevent the total collapse of the nation to the hands of a despotic tyrant. Hussein refused to pledge allegiance to Yazid.
In one sense, he was very divisive, but usually when people fight for justice, they are divisive. Usually it divides the community, those in favor of what is right and those who are not. And so in his very divisiveness, he was really making a stand that separated the good from the bad, the just from the unjust.
Fundamentally, Hussein is not interested in the fight. He's not interested in taking to battle, but rather he's interested in making people aware of what's actually going on in the world, how things have changed since the demise of the Prophet.
Not being able to get an endorsement from Hussein, Yazid threatened to assassinate Hussein. Wanting to avoid violence, Hussein left his home and travelled to the city of Mecca. Here, Hussein sought to rally the people and delivered a passionate sermon rebuking the community leaders who had failed to stand against Yazid, saying, "You have taken lightly your duties as leaders. You have neglected the rights of the oppressed and the lowly, but have assiduously pursued what you regard as your personal rights."
His moral justice was quite a simple issue. It was that we must be willing to take a stand and even die for what is right, that there can be no compromise. And I think it's that refusal to compromise, and he was made a number of offers by the people in power to compromise, to turn back, to try a different route. This refusal to compromise, even in the face of great personal danger, that for me is the key to the morality, the ethics of his justice.
Most leaders,
Incredible.
they will remain in their comfort zones and send their people to go and do the work. They will call for justice.
Wallahi,
but they will
that's
not
so
be
true.
on the ground or in the field to promote justice. Imam al-Hussein did not do that. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam led from front.
Hussein had received hundreds of letters from the residents in the city of Kufa, present-day Iraq, pledging their support in the struggle against Yazid. As the threat of violence increased, Hussein departed from Mecca, along with his family and loyal companions, and began the long journey towards Kufa. When Yazid became aware of Hussein's intention, he dispatched a brutal governor to quash the dissent. But Hussein persisted with his movement eastward. As Hussein got closer to Kufa, he was intercepted by a battalion of Yazid's army, led by a commander called Hur. Hussein, his family and companions were prevented from going any further and were forced to stop in a dry desert land known as Karbala.
Hur and his entourage of forces came. His horses and his soldiers were thirsty. Hussein offered them water. He did not say, "These people are here to monitor me."
Imagine, that is just courage. Like, I don't know. It's, imagine offering to help people that you know are there to cause you nothing but harm, rather than trying to fight them off, offering them to Allah, like feed offer water to their horses, and just, that's incredible. That's incredible.
To make life difficult for me and to
That is-
block my way,
That's
he gives them
incredible.
water.
Incredible.
Hussein's selfless act of kindness was to be met in turn with a cruel response by Yazid's army, who proceeded to surround Hussein's camp and cut off the water supply. Hussein, his family, and small army of around 72 were left thirsty for 3 days in the blistering heat.
Hussein said something which rings very true for the human condition. He said, human beings are slaves to the world. As long as our situation is fine,
That
we have food, we
is
have water,
facts.
we have money, we have the basics, people will profess their beliefs, they will profess their religion on their tongues. But when people are tested, when people are tried,
Wallahi, that's true.
very few people remain who are
Yes.
sincere and devoted.
Wallahi, that's true.
On
Fact.
the eve of Ashura, Abu Abdullah gathered all his companions and he asked for the candle to be switched off. So it was put off. And he said to his companions, I am the target, you are not the target. Why don't you go? And no blame on you. Each and every one of them stood up and pledged their allegiance to Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salam.
Did you hear what you just, that, I'm not gonna get too emotional in this video, but this is, it's hard not to. I'm speechless. Like,
Their allegiance to honor. Don't you go?
telling his companions, like, literally, you're not the target. You can go off, be safe, and not risk getting harmed or killed in the process of trying to protect me. You can go off. I'm the target. And then them saying no and staying with him, choosing to stay with him, knowing that they're risking their life, they're putting their life in danger. That is just courage at the highest level, and just shows how much of deep love that they have for him. That is just, mashallah.
And no blame on you. Each and every one of them stood up.
Imagine any
pledged
other
their
leader in
allegiance to
today's
Allah.
world, they wouldn't even be over there. They would probably be somewhere, like, they would have everyone else's life, force everyone else's life to put on the line before their life is, this is
Hussain alayhi
incredible.
salam.
This is incredible.
Placed him on his chest and he walked to the battlefield. He looked at the camp of the enemies. He called out, am I the target or these infants? Why don't you give him water?
And this created a consternation in the opposing army. And when the leader, Omar ibn Sa'ad, saw that, he called out for them to silence Hussein's argument, meaning to kill that child. And so one very evil soldier, whose name was Hormala, took a three-pointed arrow and fired at the child and ripped the child's neck apart in the arms of the
Allah.
father.
He was now completely alone. Everyone else was gone except for the woman in the tents, and they were being threatened. And I think that in the end, it was his utter exhaustion from fighting almost single-handedly that helped to hasten his end, and the fact that he was now surrounded by a superior number.
Up until the last breath he had, in the midst of all of
Thus that the woman and the children were transported in a very brutal manner to the various leaders of the time, first of all to Kufa and then to Damascus, where they were humiliated and interrogated. But of course it is the lady Zainab who cannot be separated from her brother, who keeps all of this alive and begins to retell the tale. And so it's a terrible time, and it's the beginning of something absolutely wonderful.
Following the tragic killing of Hussein, his sister Zainab carried the flag of Hussein's mission and became the moral support for the women and children who had been taken captive. Famously, When asked how she perceived what had transpired, she replied eloquently, "I saw nothing but beauty."
She makes these two famous protests against the citizens of Kufa and then against Yazid. And she is famous that not only does she denounce his leadership and indict him as a person, but she also in those moments begins the story of Karbala and ensures at that moment that the story will never be forgotten and that the lessons of Karbala will never be forgotten.
Zainab's fiery speech in the courtyards of Yazid sent shockwaves across the nation, as word spread of how Hussein and his small army were martyred in Karbala. Realizing his grave miscalculation, Yazid freed Hussein's family. Zainab, alongside Hussein's last remaining son, Ali Zain al-Abidin, began to tell people of what happened in Karbala. This triggered a series of uprisings, which eventually led to Yazid's rule being dismantled.
For a number of people, the commemoration of Hussein is also about this quest for justice and goodness in the world. And so the recounting of the story of what happened is then connected with accounts of oppression, of tragedy, and of brutality in the world that we have, and a hope and desire for something better.
The story of Hussein has been remembered through generations every year as a source of empowerment in the fight for moral justice. How Hussein and his army of 72 were victorious against a tyrannical enemy through sacrificing their lives. 1300 years later, millions of people from all backgrounds flocked to pay tribute to Hussein at his shrine in Iraq.
Every time we stand up to fight and we are prepared to sacrifice everything for truth, we are like Hussein.
The reason why people can aspire to be like Hussein is because he transcends religious borders and political borders. Justice is a human thing. All human beings, even non-religious human beings, are bound by justice.
The revolution continues. We have to create now a Husseini society, which is a society of justice and a society of brave people, who are not afraid of fighting for truth.
Incredible. Incredible. What an incredible documentary. Incredible. MashaAllah. I hope you guys learned a thing or two from this, because I definitely did. And I appreciate the brother who shared this with me and asked me to check out this. I appreciate you so much. Okay, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. I don't normally react to documentaries, but this one I had to make an exception for it, considering that I've been reacting to a lot of Shia Nasheeds. So yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, I hope you learned a thing or two. Okay, I'll see you all in the next one. Incredible, mashallah.